All right, so today we're going to do a little bit of feet and a little bit of hips, I think. So we're going to start, we're going to have some blocks available for you in case you need them. And then we're going to go into downward facing dog to start. So just coming up onto your hands and knees, curl the toes under, and just lift the hips up and back. Downward facing dog. I'm just going to find a little stretch into the feet. So just let the heels sink down toward the floor. And then we'll lift the heels high and then lower the heels down. We're going to stretch through the feet, through the back of the legs. We'll lift the heels high and let them sink back down. Good. A couple more, lifting high. Inhale, lifting. Exhale, lowering. Inhale, lift. Exhale, lower down. Good. So let's come down onto the knees. Find child's pose, nice and comfortable child's pose. Knees apart, big toes together, forehead to the mat. If your forehead doesn't reach the mat, you can always stack your fists or use a block. You could use a block under your head, like so. Otherwise, just start to relax and then we'll center a little bit. Noticing your breath. Bringing the breath into the belly. So you feel the belly expand between the legs on your inhale and soften on the exhale. Just a few more breaths, really letting go here. And then on your next inhale, we're going to float up to a tabletop position. Good. So let's just round the spine and arch the spine. Round and arch. Good. One more time. Round and arch. Good. Finding a flat back. Curl the toes under. We'll just curl the toes under a little bit and just let's stretch through the toes. We're just going to rotate the heels out a little toward the little toe and then rotate the heel in toward the big toe. So you're just doing a little stretch into the feet. If you want a little more, you can sit onto your heels. A little less, you just come up off of your heels. Good. And then from here, just find that center place with the heel, downward facing dog. And then you can pedal your feet this time, pressing one heel and lifting the other, and then switching. Just a few times. Get a nice stretch into the back of the legs, stretch through the feet. And then let's lift both heels up and then drop them over to the right. So we're just turning the feet a little bit Drop the heels over to the right. Good. Lift the heels up. We're going to twist the feet so we can drop them a little over to the left. Good. Lift up to center. And then let's just walk it forward. Just take a few steps, finding a standing forward fold, chin to chest. Arms come down. You can just have the hands on the floor or on your shins or grab your elbows. Just whatever helps you release the spine a little bit. Inhale, let's come all the way up. Reaching for the ceiling. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good. So from here, we're just going to evenly press both feet into the mat. So you can close your eyes and kind of feel the bottoms of your feet. And think about where you're pressing more. Are you pressing more on the outside or the inside? The front or the back? And then you're just working toward making that even. So even on the inside and the outside of the foot, even from the heel to the ball of the foot. Lift the toes, all the toes. Good. And then set them down one at a time, pinky all the way to the big toe. Let's do that again. Lift the toes. And just set them down one at a time. Good. Now this time we're going to lift all the little toes. And then set them down. And then the big toe. Set it down. Little toe. And big toe. So we're just going to alternate. Little toes. And big toes. Little toe. Big toe. One more time. Little toe. And big toe. Good. Finding all the toes on the mat. Just gently gripping. Lift the heels from the mat. We're just finding our balance here. You can bend the knees a little. Bring your hands together. It can be a little hard to balance. Lift the heels a little higher. Good. And then set them down. Good. Let's do it again. Lift the heels high. And set them down. Good. Lift the heels high. And set them down. Good. So you're going to want to make sure you have your blocks handy. Whoa. Blocks handy on either side of your mat here. Good. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good. So we're going to take your right foot and step it back. Not a full lunge, not a deep lunge, just a little lunge, little mini lunge. Hips square to the front of your mat. Good. And then let's take the hands behind you. So you might grab your elbows. You might be able to do that. You might interlace your fingers together. Maybe press your knuckles down toward the floor. So you're getting a stretch through the chest. Lift the wrists a little bit from your hips. Good. And then fold over that front leg. Good. So you might not go all the way down. And just notice your feet. So you're going to try to shift the weight into the big toe of your front foot. Nice. And then we're going to bring the hands down, release the bind, whatever bind you have. Bring the blocks in. And we're just trying to bring the weight into the base of that big toe and rotate your right hip toward the floor. Stretching into your back, the backs of your legs. You're getting a stretch through both legs. Good. And your spine is flat. Now you might stay here. You might just relax and let the spine round over that front leg a little bit. You might need the blocks. You could put your elbows on them, or you could set them aside and bring your hands to the floor. Breathe. Good. So we're going to bend the front knee, hop the back foot back a little into that little bit of a deeper lunge. So the front knee is bent. That right hip is still rotating toward the floor. Back heel's lifted. Crescent pose. Good. Breathe. So we really want to feel the stretch in your the front of your right thigh. So we're just rotating that hip down. So you're squaring the hips to the front of your mat. Good. Bringing both hands down to the mat. Let's step back. Downward facing dog. Breathe. Just see if you notice the difference between one leg and then the other. We're going to walk forward. Fold. Inhale, come all the way up. Exhale, hands to heart center. Good. So the other side. Take that left foot, step it back in a short lunge. So the back toes, you want them pointing pretty close to the front of your mat, not turned out too much. So you're getting that stretch through the back of the legs. Hands come behind you, either grabbing the elbows, interlacing the fingers, press the knuckles down, lift the wrists. Stretch through the chest. Fold forward. So we might just stay here for a moment. And then release the bind of your hands, bringing those blocks in. So notice if the blocks are too far forward. So they might be way up in front of that foot. See if you can bring them in closer to the foot. Flatten the spine. So we're finding that the base of the big toe, you're going to put your weight in the base of your big toe, rotating your left hip toward the floor. Breathe. And that can really deepen the pose a lot. And then maybe you're going to round down, bending the elbows. Maybe bringing the hands to the floor, elbows to your blocks. Or you just stay right on top of those blocks. Totally fine. Feeling that stretch. Nice. Bending into the front knee. Back foot hops back into that longer lunge. We're still rotating that left hip down, and it'll rotate maybe a little bit more now. And coming up, crescent pose. Breathe. Nice. Bring hands down. Step back. Downward facing dog. Heels sinking down. So we're not trying to touch the heels to the floor per se. So it's not at all costs. But you do want your heels to be grounding toward the floor. So you're feeling that stretch through the back of your legs. Lower down onto your knees. Let's find child's pose. Breathe. Good. So we're going to sit onto the heels. Come to seated. Whatever's comfortable for you to start. So we're going to start just cross-legged, sitting up tall. Straightening into the legs. Good. Let's bring them wide. So maybe not as wide as they'll go, but a little bit wide. And then we're going to roll the hips back a little and then rotate them forward, stretching into your inner thighs, fold forward. So here we're digging into the hips just a little bit and the inner thigh, which gets tight when we're stressed. Good, coming up. We're going to take your right leg in front. So we're just going to put it right in front. That shin is parallel with the mat, the line of your mat. The other leg is going to come up and over. Now, if it doesn't go up and over, you straighten the bottom leg. Okay. And then we're going to take your hand. So you're going to take your right hand from underneath your foot and just interlace your toes. Just put your fingers between your toes, and then your thumb is just going to press into the arch of your foot. And so you can just kind of explore it a little bit with your thumb. You might find some interesting spots. If you find a little bit of a sore spot, that's good. So you just want to press into it. I found a nice little sore spot myself. And another time you could explore it with a tennis ball or a lacrosse ball. Good. Just feeling it around. And then we're going to release the toes. Toes and fingers. And keep the legs the way they are, whether your bottom leg is straight or bent. Tilt the hips forward and fold. Nice stretch into your hip. Lift the chest a little for a little more. Good, and then coming back up. Straightening into both legs. Shake them out just a little bit. We're going to just go right into the other side. So we're going to take your left leg in front. Right leg is going to go up and over. So again, that bottom leg can be straight. And then we're going to take your hand, so left hand, interlace the toes. And then we're taking the thumb and we're just kind of exploring the area. With your thumb, finding any sore spots. Okay, and then we're going to release the hand, release the foot, tilt the hips forward, fold forward. Feeling that hip. Lifting the chest, deepening into the pose a little bit. Good, and then coming up, straightening into the legs, right in front. I'm going to bend the knees, just straighten them up for a shakeout, a little shakeout. Let's have one block available when we come down. And then we're going to come onto our back, nice and slow. So use your abs to come onto your back. We're going to use your hands on the back of your legs, but we're also going to use your abs to engage to come down. So we're building a little strength here. Very nice. Knees bent, bottom of the feet on the mat. Hands to the belly, close your eyes. So we did a little stretching of the hips. Now we're going to engage the pelvic floor, the belly, and the thighs in order to support the hips. So what you want to think about is your pelvic floor, your mula bandha, pull it in and up. So we're just going to hold that there. And then pull your belly in towards your spine. So a little tip is you can make that sound and it helps you pull the belly in. So your hands are there for you to feel the belly engage. Pelvic floor in, belly engage. And release both. So you're releasing both. So we're going to do that one more time. Pelvic floor in, pull the belly in. Feel them both. Mula bandha, Uddiyana bandha, both engaged and release. And we're going to add the legs into this. So we're going to bring your block between your knees. So like between the knees or thighs is fine. And you're going to find a gentle squeeze. So as you squeeze, make sure your glutes are involved. So you're not squeezing too hard, but they are squeezing a little. So now we're squeezing the legs. We're finding the pelvic floor, pull it in. And then we're pulling the belly in toward the spine. Bring it in. Hold. Good, and release. Nice. So we just released. We can feel the rounding come back into the spine. Squeeze the legs. Squeeze the glutes. Pelvic floor in and up, mula bandha. Belly in, in, in. Maybe make the S sound to make it really go in. Hold. And release. Good. We're going to do it one more time. So squeeze the legs, squeeze the glutes, holding that block. Pelvic floor in. Pull the belly in. Hold. Hold, 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 hold. Hold it for one more breath. So make sure you're breathing. And release. Good. So we're going to hold that block. Tuck the shoulders underneath you a little bit. We're going to do this whole thing in bridge. So we're going to lift the hips up off of the mat. Squeeze the block with the legs. Feel the glutes, pelvic floor, belly in. Lift the hips. Hold. Hold, hold, hold. Pelvic floor, belly in, hips lift, legs squeeze. Breathe. Good. One more breath. Inhale, lift the hips, pelvic floor, belly in, squeeze the block. Good job. Lower down. That's harder than it looks. Set the block aside. Hug the knees into the chest. Let's just rock from side to side. Good. Let's bring the arms out. Lower the knees over to the right. Breathe into the belly. Good. Bring the knees up to center. And we're going to bring them over to the left. Breathing deep into the belly. Good. Back up to center. One more time. Hug the knees into the chest and rock from side to side. Nice. And then we're going to just lower the legs down. Straightening into the legs. Arms come down by your sides, or you can lay them on your belly. Do what feels comfortable to you. Closing your eyes. And for the next few moments, just see if you can soften a little bit more, starting with the feet, relaxing the toes and the feet, the calves and the thighs, letting them get heavier into the floor. The hips and the belly become just a big pool of water. The chest and the shoulders and the arms spreading on your mat. Relaxing the forehead and the jaw. And then with each breath, allow every part of your body to just become more and more relaxed. And as you come back into the moment and bring some movement into your fingers and toes. And bend it into one knee and then the other. Rolling onto one side of your body. I'm just going to rest here for a moment. Pressing up to a seated position. Hands on the knees. Take a couple more breaths just for you before we move on with our busy day. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Namaste.